glass of wine, buying up all the sanitizer, standing in the grocery store line, coughing. Getting weird looks doesn't help that your eyes are real red and you're just stoned out of your head. Cholera, polio, measles, and mumps. Don't go out on the town if you're feeling down.
Thank you, Mr. Tyler Westcott, for being here. And how the hell are you, my friend?
I'm all right, you know. We were just saying, we're looking forward to playing music and like all the time again, and yeah, I don't know. I've been all right, and it's been
Have
really
you been? Have you been?
year.
I mean, yeah, it's been weird for sure. I've seen some videos of you playing. I don't know if those were just staged performances, but over the course of the, last few months, have you been able to get out and play a little bit, real shows, or more just kind of filming, safe shows, kind of stuff like that?
A little bit of both. I've been able to do some gigs with limited capacity, and I've been trying to stick to venues that we're doing things, more safely, and then the rules are just changing all the time. And so sometimes it's just like, well, I guess I'm playing wherever now because, I gotta play. So, and I mean, and I stopped for a long time, and there was a few months there where I didn't see anybody except my girlfriend or somebody at the store, and we all seem to really take things very seriously at first. And then, and after a while you start to loosen up a little bit, but it's still, nothing changes, and so you have to bear in mind the safety of others and yourself, and still try to remain creative and happy and healthy. And yeah, I got to do gigging and some remote stuff too, mostly kind of art galleries hosted me, they would send me a small amount of money, and I'd do a pre-recorded show or set for them, and I was very grateful for all those experiences, and I was grateful for all the places I got to play live as well, and I didn't really feel uncomfortable in a lot of them, maybe one or two, but
I've pretty much not been gigging. I've done like one or two, I've done online stuff, right? Things like you said, where people throw me a little money, I do a little thing, little song and dance for them, which is fine. But after a while, that got a little bit old. Not to say I won't take money to do that, I will, but it's not the same, obviously. But it sounds like you've been able to get some stuff in, so that's good. Now, we met way back, must have been probably about 3-4 years ago in Buffalo at a real cool venue there called Nietzsche's. And I immediately loved your sound and the band Full Faces that you fronted sound, which we'll get into that later. But I don't really know how much you were gigging, prior to the lockdown. Were you on the road a lot? Were you doing kind of Northeast? Were you gigging a few times a week in Buffalo? What did that look like for you?
So I've been living in Buffalo for about 10 years, and I founded the band in 2011, and at first, the first beginning of the band, and the band's taken many formations over the years and lots of different lineup changes and things, and but at first it was just, we're gonna take any gig we can because we're just trying to play, and we're just trying to get our name out there and cut our teeth and work. And then, as the years went on, we started being able to, charge something, and we didn't have to take every gig. And then in the most recent years, like before the lockdown, I was mostly doing solo stuff, and then, bigger shows with the band, and so so I was probably playing out in anywhere from 3 to 5 nights a week.
Wow.
And mostly locally, in the New York State region, between, mostly Western New York and some Central New York, and then we would do a few tours. We had a couple of school teachers in the band, so on their breaks we would go out and do those. and do those tours, and we would go hard. We would go from like Canada to New Orleans, but mostly the Northeast, We never got to the Midwest or out West. And I look forward to someday hopefully getting to do that and trying that out. And but you know, as far as that goes, yeah, I was doing music full time for a few years, and I had a bunch of different projects, and you know, side projects and solo gigs were kind of my bread and butter, and then it'd be a few more higher profile things with the band.
And yeah, I remember you came through Austin once. I didn't get to see you that. I think I was out of town, but I remember you saying on Instagram, and I remember like, oh, in fact, that kind of re-registered you guys in me, I think, as I follow you on social media, but then when it's like, oh, they're in Austin, okay, these guys are still after it. So since then, I've had a keener eye on just all your doings. But where were you before Buffalo, or where are you from originally, and where were you before that?
Well, I grew up in a small town in New York State, south of Rochester, New York, which is about an hour and 10 minutes from Buffalo. So I grew up about an hour and a half away from Buffalo, in a very, very small town, rural, you know, dairy farming town, and, you know, graduated high school with 40 kids, and, you know, had a pretty interesting experience, and couldn't wait to leave and experience the world and the diversity that it had to offer. And, you know, there's just not very many musical opportunities in Hunt, New York, or Nunde, New York, and where I went to school and grew up. And I mean, I loved growing up in the country. It's a beautiful place to live. And someday when I get all my yayas out, I might go back out to the country and have a nice house and a garden and all those things. But man, I got a lot of yayas in me still. So and I'm a big fan of the city life, and I mean, when there's not a lockdown, let's say that, because all of the charms of the city go with the lockdown, because there's literally nothing to do, nowhere to go. You're just inside, and it's just dreary and a little bit depressing, and a lot of it. And so, you know, but I just love the diverse food and culture and experiences that you can have in cities. You know, like,
for sure.
I love New Orleans. I love New York. You know, there's so many amazing cities in the world, and things you can experience, and food you can eat, and people you can meet from all walks of life. And so I couldn't wait to get out of my hometown. And yeah, I had a formative experience. I lived in a tent in Manhattan for a month or two during that whole Occupy movement thing.
Wow.
And
like right in the city, or like in the park, or what?
Zuccotti Park. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. I was voluntarily, you know, homeless, a part of the action down there. And, you know, I just saw all the young women getting pepper sprayed by police. And I said, I'm going to go down there and sing some songs and, I don't know, hang out and see what it's all about. And I mean, my mother is an activist and raised me to, you know, have strong beliefs. And so, yeah, that was a formative experience. So when I moved to Buffalo, it felt like a tiny little place compared to New York.
So you were just there for that 1 month, and you were living basically in a tent in the city, and then you got out of there after that?
It was about 2 months. Yeah, it was about 2 months. Wow. And then I moved right to Buffalo when I came back.
That is formative. I'd say that is.
It was a lot. I really experienced a lot of things in those, you know, and yeah, it was wild. I worked in the soup kitchen, and, you know, fed people in line, you know, and you know, and the cops would send all the homeless folks to the camp, and all the people who just got out of jail into the camp, and there was characters from all walks of life living there, being there, just expressing their beliefs, because that's what Occupy was all about, was just to, you know, come down and yell about it. There was no, you know, defining core value. It was just like, we're angry, capitalism sucks, come yell about it. And
So did that ever get like dangerous for you? Was there some seems like that would get hairy from time to time.
There was times. Yeah. We were surrounded by police the whole time. So how could we be in any trouble ever, you know?
Yeah.
But we weren't
Oh,
always.
so actually that presence kept things from popping off too much.
Oh no, I was kind of being a little facetious there.
Oh, that's what I thought you were doing. And then I was like,
there was some major clashes going on. And people with, all kinds of things going on, and just it was in chaotic time. And so moving to Buffalo was much calmer, but I still was like a rural country boy. When I got here, I'd go up to people at the bus stop and try to shake their hand and be like, "Hi, I'm Tyler. I'm from how are you?" And they'd be like, "Oh, get away from me, man. Whoa, calm down." But so I guess I've become a little more jaded over the years of living in the city and all my experiences, but I'm still pretty friendly and outgoing, but not quite so much.
We all get a little more jaded as we get older, you know.
Yeah.
And then you get more at peace, I think, as you get to that next. I think we're in the good jaded years, and then later on we'll find some peace with whatever. But so this is always one of my favorite questions, especially for someone like you, because I was just listening to you. Obviously, I heard you before, but when I got the earphones in and I'm listening, as I love going into people's roots musically and what their past is musically, and yours is just so rich because, you talked about New Orleans. Obviously I hear that influence in there, and I hear, honestly, I think it's going to be one of the coolest root structures that I've heard from somebody. So I'll kind of hand it off to you from there. But what did you grow up listening to? When did you start playing your instruments? And when did you kind of have those aha moments or like wow moments that kind of took you to the next stages throughout?
Well, first of all, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. And so I grew up singing in the chorus and playing in the band in elementary school, and playing the recorder, I guess, was the first instrument. And then fourth grade, I started playing the trumpet. And I had this teacher who was really mean, and she made everyone else quit. She just told them they were worthless. She's like, "Why do you even try?" And she just made them all quit. And I was just like, "I'm not quitting. I'm going to keep going." And we kind of bonded over Star Trek because my stepdad's a Trekkie and she was a nerd too. So, we nerded out, and she had tribbles on her desk, and we're just like, okay. But anyways, so she taught me how to read music. And so for that, I am forever grateful, and I'm not a great music reader. I can sight read on trumpet still, and I'm not even great at sight reading on the guitar. I can read chord charts and whatnot, but she taught me that. So I do have a lot of respect to her. Thanks, Miss Schonecker, you mean lady. And then I don't know, my mother, she was constantly singing in the kitchen, doing dishes, on the way to the store, in the grocery store, singing along to the radio. And anytime anybody said anything, she had a song for everything, just like a little colloquialism or anything. It'd just be like break into song. So I grew up hearing my mom sing all the time. She had a guitar. And played some chords and had Rise Up Singing, the folky songbook, and would sing songs out of there. And my stepdad played a little.
How old were you? I mean, obviously your mom was doing it your whole life, but how old were you when you had that mean teacher? And then where you're at now? Fourth grade. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So young. I want to get back to that in a minute, but keep going on what you were saying. What age were you at when you were kind of coming into this new area? Middle school?
My stepfather played a little guitar as well, or learned some. And I went to the talent show and I sang Edelweiss or something. And when I was, 8 or 9, and then when I was 13, sixth grade, I started playing guitar. And some kid who I went to school with taught me a G, C, and a D chord. And he left a guitar in the practice room there, and he put it in the yearbook and said, "For any Christian guitar player." And I was like, "Well, I'm a guitar player, and I got half of it. I'm gonna start playing this thing." And anyways, yeah. So I started doing that, and I played in the jazz band in high school, and then I played in college, and I went into I had a band in high school. It was called Full Body Cast, and then another band called Muddy Jammers, and we were kind of like a pop punk, ska punk, wannabe Rancid type thing, and I was just the classic angsty child, and pink mohawk,
Nice.
plaid pants, and
I had a pink mohawk when I was 3. My mom gave me one.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Started you young. But yeah, I grew up listening to, my mother is she's a big fan of Bob Dylan and Joan Baez and Peter, Paul and Mary. I think Peter, Paul and Mary was my first concert ever. And
Nice.
so all that, Neil Young, Joan Baez, she liked John Prine a lot, Gordon Lightfoot, that kind of thing. Kind of soft, folkier singer-songwriter stuff. My stepdad turned me on to Louis Armstrong, The Clash, Green Day, and like things like that, and James Brown, and gave me some of that other stuff, and then my mom liked the Grateful Dead too, and Willie Nelson, and so kind of hippie folky stuff, and then kind of punky and jazz stuff from my stepdad. And then my brother just loved hip hop and rap. And so like I was a young child just hearing all like, D12 coming through the wall, and I'm like doing my math homework. And so like, and then we both bonded over a love of punk rock, and kind of that was that emo phase, and like, kind of but then I got into more hardcore punk rock stuff, later in high school, and I was too cool for that, But yeah, and then I played music into college. I took trumpet lessons in college, and did really badly at them and had to stop because I couldn't handle it. And then I took jazz guitar in college. I didn't graduate. I dropped out, but man, what a little bit of lessons on the guitar helped me so much. Just learn to play your voicings, and your one chord 3 different ways is just, it's an incredible thing to do. And so big shout out to Craig Snyder, my guitar teacher from college. He really helped me make leaps and bounds. So that was another big click moment, and I didn't even know it until later on. I was like, wow, I can read charts, I know what these chord symbols mean. I can figure this stuff out. I can, and I can pretty much notate it if I want to, really slowly, but so that's, and then yeah, you're pretty much caught up. That's it.
Dude, it's so funny to hear. Just once, it doesn't always work this way, because maybe sometimes I'm not as familiar with some of the people. That's not happen very often, but in your case, especially, just the names you're throwing out, it's like, oh yeah, that's the 5%. I heard that 5%, and then oh yeah, I heard that. Just between the punk, obviously the folk stuff's there, but the punk is there for sure, and the jazz is there for sure. There's so much I want to kind of sink my teeth into, but just going back to the beginning. So you were almost like, I'm sure you've seen that movie, Whiplash. Did you see that one?
What is that?
It's about the drummer at like a prestigious New York City music school, and he's got that asshole teacher. You didn't see that one?
No, I love movies too. I'm gonna go watch it.
Yeah, as a musician, you'll like it, because it's basically what you described. This guy's
I feel like I've seen every movie ever, so like this is great. Thank you.
So it's called Whiplash. It's pretty recent. It's within the last 4 or 5 years, and it's about a drummer student, like 18-year-old kid at a really prestigious jazz school, and his teacher's just a classic total asshole. And I won't say anymore because you can watch it, but it's funny to hear you. That's so funny to me that you had a 4th grade teacher that was that mean, and what she was doing.
She was awful. She was mean.
but she had she actually, maybe she was just after you, Tyler. She was after that one student who was going to respond to her. And you look
She
at the
made
great
the other two
position you
kids
take.
cry. She made them cry. I remember that. And I was like,
Oh,
why are you guys
man.
crying?
That's so funny, man. I love it. So it sounds like, I guess you kind of answered this question, but with the college teacher you were talking about, but did you always find yourself to be pretty darn good musician, or were you kind of serviceable during those middle years, and then in that early 20s you kind of took that big leap?
Oh, I was trash. I was terrible. I was quite awful. I needed a
It's like
lot of
me.
work. I was
Me
totally
too, man.
self-taught. I did learn a lot on my own, but just to have the vocabulary and to learn, about, music theory and like a little bit, that's all, I just needed a little help. And I think a little goes a long way. And when you start to make those connections, you can unlock a lot of things. I feel like I'm on a plateau with it for years because it's just like, but there's always more to learn, and that's I'm going to keep learning for the rest of my life. And so I mean, I have that to look forward to, but yeah, definitely that just rocketed me like in a more creative direction. I never really loved jazz music, and so I was taking jazz guitar lessons. And so I was kind of like discovering music at the same time, I was always more of a, punk and rock and blues and folk fan, and yeah. And I mean, and going to a music school, you're just playing music with your friends all the time. And so you're just learning
you're
a
probably
lot.
playing 6-7 hours a day or something like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, and then you're just jamming, and then your whole day is music too. And yeah, I did recording too, and I mostly slept through all my classes. So like, don't ask me to record your album because I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, I have friends who ended up doing really well with it and are good engineers now. But I needed a gap year. I wasn't ready to not party my face off.
Yeah.
I really just like had to party my face off, and it was wasteful and stupid, and maybe someday I'll go back, but I'm glad I got the knowledge, and I'm glad I got out there and started doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah, well, we were in the same boat in a number of ways. I kind of withheld from partying pretty good through high school. So I was, I get into a little bit of mischief, but it wasn't really partying. And then towards the end of high school, and then about 5 years that followed, it was a pretty big priority for me. I really enjoyed it. But the other thing that we have in common is since you said it, I'll say it. I'm not very good, pretty trashy. I think I bet you were a little better than trashy. Something tells me you were, but I was okay. But then when I hit like 19, 20, I basically had an aha moment. I had lessons, and I had a solid teacher who was teaching me fun stuff. But then at that point when I was 20 is when I basically, through a series of events, was like, because I always thought being a professional musician was like, I can't do that. I'm not good enough to do that. You know what I mean? It's like, I wasn't born to do that. I started playing when I was 15. I'm not that great. It's impossible. And then over the course of like 18 months, a few different things happened. And I kind of came to this like, wait a minute, all these people I love, at least half of them started in their mid-teens, at least half of them. And all you have to do is start. And then I just started playing 5-6 hours a day. And that was it. It was like, oh, that's all I got to do is just play all day. Okay, well, I'll do that then.
It is quite time consuming, though. It is.
It is, but I love
that
it.
much. But if you want to get good, that's what you got to do. You just got to play all day.
I know.
And I still need to take that advice because
Yeah, though. But I got to say, like, for me personally, one thing I've realized is that I did that time, and I needed that time, those 3-4, well, it was probably longer than that. It was a good chunk, 5-6 years of tons and tons of practice and playing. And I never stopped practicing. But now that we've come to where we are, and I've heard you play and I've seen you play, and I've only in the last few years kind of felt this about myself. It's like, I don't need to practice that much. In fact, it's better for me if I don't practice that much. I still love to practice, and I practice all the time, but it's much more short spurts. Like,
yeah,
there's no, because you got to come in with a fresh part of part of the joy and part of the creativity is coming in with fresh energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you
yeah.
when you have the skills that we put the time in to get, for me personally, I'm like, I'm gonna do it a lot, but I'm not gonna do it that much because I don't need to do it that much, you know. But
Right.
so I wouldn't
I
feel
mean,
bad about not doing that anymore because I think we've done our 10, 20, 30,000 hours, whatever we did, you know.
Right. Well, so there's days like the last couple days, man, I haven't picked up an instrument, but there's never a day I don't listen to music or I don't think about music. You know, I'm always listening to records or reading about music or, you know, whatever, you know, but there's never a day that music isn't on my mind, even if I'm not physically playing it, you know, it's like, wow, why haven't I picked up a guitar in 2 days? What the hell am I doing with myself? Just being a bum. But you know, sometimes you got to come back to it, you know, and then you get that burst of creativity. And you know, and I'm trying to get inspired too, because you know, usually it's like it's the crowd and the live show and all the stuff around it that inspires you a lot of the time, and it's hard to get yourself inspired. So lately I've been taking lessons and I've been giving lessons.
Nice.
So
that's great.
So it's so weird to be at a point in my life where I'm like taking and giving lessons, you know, because it's like and giving the lessons, I learn so much because, you know,
Absolutely.
I'm trying to tell somebody how to do something. I'm like, wait, I can't do that. Hang on. Let me try this again. Wait, I suck. Sorry. And then I go and practice because I'm like, oh, I got to be able to not look like an idiot if I'm going to tell this kid to do this. So, but, and then, you know, one of the great silver linings about this pandemic is that, you know, it's affected everybody and everybody's doing this now. So if pretty much a lot of people, you know, anybody who inspires you, like if there's a famous guitar player or banjo player or somebody, you know, hit them up and see if they'll do a Zoom lesson with you and, you know,
Right.
throw them some money because everybody's hurting. And that's what works nowadays. And it's been really inspiring. And, you know, everybody's offering online lessons now. And if you're not taking them, then, you know, I feel like it's a missed opportunity because it's like pretty soon everybody's going to be busy again. And that'll be a window that has expired. So.
Man, I love it. I haven't heard that before, but I love it. And I would love to take lessons and give lessons. I've coached kids for years in sports. So that's kind of been my day gig. And for a good decade, I haven't done it in the last 18 months or so, but for obvious reasons, actually for the last couple of years. But there was a point a couple summers ago where I was getting into, because it's a natural fit. I know how to work with kids and I know how to play music. So I started working with this like rock and roll school, one of these rock schools. And what I did was I was basically like I had like a band that I coached for 2 weeks in the summer. So it's just like these band of like 5 kids from age 10 to 14 who I was their coach, and we were working on Zeppelin and we were working on whatever they wanted to learn, man. And it was great. I loved it. Unfortunately, my schedule wasn't going to allow me to do it anymore, but it was, well, there were parts I didn't like actually, but the music part of it was fantastic because it was a little long, you know, it was like a 4-hour block. So that's a little bit, it was a little bit much for 2 weeks. So I realized that, but the actual working with kids and music, and it was so good. And like you said, and I've heard that a dozen times, how much you learn from teaching. So that's super cool that you've been able to do all that.
Also, going back to, you were talking about those click moments, you know, those click moments for when people are learning, and it's fun for you to see that click too.
It's great. It's so nice
because it's like, wow, I think I'm really helping this person. I think it's really working, and it's pretty cool. It feels kind of good, you know. And then it's the same if you're the student too. It's like, wow, this is really cool. I understand this now. So I don't know.
So I had a couple follow-ups actually. You basically told me what your roots are, and you basically told me, you know, how you got to be the player that you are. The one final question I had in that realm was just who are the people, you know, half dozen people or 3 or 4 people who really were the ones for you, you know, for you? Because I know you said your mom did like this and your dad got you into this. But for you, who were the ones that you like sat with and worked with and studied with?
Yeah. Well, I'd say, you know, I mean, Louis Armstrong always inspired me a lot, you know, even though I thought it was hokey and cheesy and, you know, I just was like, didn't understand what it was. It was just like beautiful music. And I remember my grandmother crying in the corner of the room listening to him. And I was like, why are you crying? And she just said, oh, it's just so beautiful. And I was just like, wow, that's wild that music can affect you like that. And, yeah, and then I don't know, I'd say you know, Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger were pretty huge, you know, just you know, and I kind of came to them later on my own, you know. My mom loved Bob Dylan and Arlo, but you know, I kind of had to find uh Woody on my own, you know, and then you know, Pete kind of too. I mean, I think she probably raised me on a little bit of that too. And then you know, and then from there, you know, I don't know. I love Joe Strummer. Joe Strummer was super inspiring to me too, and Bob
Cool.
Marley too. And you know, the thing about all those people is they were kind of like, you know, they were amazing writers and performers, but they were also like freedom fighters in a lot of ways, and that was always super inspiring to me that they wore multiple hats like that. That they, you know, that they occupied that space, because you know, anybody can write a catchy awesome love song, but like they were like speaking some truths while they were making it catchy. And yeah, who else? I mean, and then you know, I as I got older, it was, you know, like Lou Reed and Iggy Pop, and then I don't know, like I don't want to think about it too hard. But yeah, I mean, it was a mixture of that kind of stuff, and then, you know, and then more recently, um, it's been David Bromberg and Blaze Foley and Danny Barker and Reverend Gary Davis and like people like that, Mississippi John Hurt, you know. And I'll just find somebody who just really like their music just inspires me a lot, and I'll just try to learn as much as I can about them and like learn a bunch of their tunes and soak up a bunch of their tunes, and then after a while I'll just move on, you know. And so yeah, there's a bunch of that. Yeah, I think those are,
Yeah,
you know, pretty.
I got a lot of similarities there too. I love Woody. Woody is I came to him on my own as well. You know, I grew up with Dylan. I went through a few phases of Dylan before I think I was done with high school. I
Right.
loved him, but then I think I found Woody in college, probably the back half of college too. But immediately loved him. I think I mean, he's my favorite lyricist of all time, just because he's so, for the reasons you mentioned. But oh man, he's just so fucking clever. I love those songs he does where he does. I would argue, I'm sure there's somebody before him because there's always somebody before him. You know, you hear about like, I just watched that Dolomite movie. I don't know if you've seen that. I really like that movie. But they talk about Dolomite being the godfather of rap. And you've heard Muhammad Ali is the beginning of rap. I would make the argument that Woody Guthrie, and I'm sure somebody was before him too, but I would make the argument that Woody Guthrie started rap because there's a few of those songs he has where like I think it's like
The
fishing
talking
blue.
blues stuff.
Yeah, that shit is fucking fun and
Yeah.
funny and cool, and it's rap. It's rap.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think
He's rapping.
I actually went down that rabbit hole, you know, a lot like recently, and somebody turned me on to something. I think it's called the Laughing Blues or something, or I don't know. I'll send it to you afterward,
Sure.
I found like the first recorded talking blues, and I was like, wow, this is wild. And
Was it somebody else? Or was it
yeah,
Woody?
yeah. Well, and that's the thing about Woody is he was just such a great thief. You know, he he wrote amazing lyrics, yes, and those were his own, but he took melodies from, old time songs, like famously like Union Made is the fiddle tune Red Wing, and he just took that and wrote his own words to it. And then, just like This Land Is Your Land is I don't know what it's called, but it's a Carter family song that he just changed the words to,
Wow.
and so he was just a master thief, and made things his own and made them even better, I think. And then his disciples did the same thing, like Bob, and so I don't know, I think that that's super interesting. And but yeah, I the Talking Blues, I've written a bunch of those. And
I gotta hear yours.
Yeah,
I gotta hear yours. I'll look. I think I've heard a couple of songs I was listening to today had almost that element to them. Just the way you're phonically, the speed and the cleverness of the lyric. I can hear that for sure. So I'm sure you do some good ones.
I've done a few. Talking Marijuana Blues. I've done the Talking Wall Street Blues, which I wrote when I was down there. Wow. And yeah, I've written a few of them. I think I wrote one called Talking New World Order Blues or something.
So you're even more about them than I am, because
I love
actually have
them, man.
some songs. Yeah, they're so fun, man.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that because you said rabbit hole, and when I was listening, go ahead.
I wrote one called Talking Pandemic Blues.
Oh, of course.
And
plenty to talk about.
And I wrote it in like February or March of last year, before like anything, when it was like, oh, there's this virus over in China, people are struggling, and then I put this thing up on Facebook, and like it got like 300 shares like immediately, and I was just like, holy. Wow. And I was like, dang, I've never had anything go like that viral, and it was just like what people needed at the time. It was just like a little levity and humor to lighten a scary situation, and none of us knew what was coming at all. And then and there's been many others, but that are called Talking Pandemic Blues, but I think mine was pretty early on, and it's going to be on a new record that I'm working on.
Sweet.
I worked on a solo record during this whole year, and it's on there, and I'm excited.
Don't wait too long. Don't wait too long. Pretty soon people aren't going to want to hear anything about a pandemic.
I know. That's what, I've got a couple tunes like that. I've got a couple tunes like that, and my friend's like, you need to record that like tomorrow, because that needs to be heard right now. And
just put them out as singles, and then put them out, right? Because you got about 2-3 months, and then people aren't going to want to hear nothing about no pandemic anymore. No, I'm just kidding. True. They probably still be able to laugh at it. But go ahead.
I've always dated myself in my songs. Like I always put things in there, and then like 2 months later things change, and it's like, well, shit, still gonna sing it. I don't know.
Sure, I do that too. But yeah, I think that was when I was listening to your tunes. That's what I was excited to talk to you about, because I could tell you've gone down the rabbit hole. You've gone down a few rabbit holes, and that's one thing. That's why it's my favorite part of these podcasts is learning about people's stuff, and some are more interesting than others. But that for me, the most fun part of being a musician and trying to be great at what I do is going down those rabbit holes and the journey of it. That's always been so fun to me. Right from when I was like 15, you know what I mean? Like I was really into, when I was 15, I was just starting to play guitar, and I was really getting into blues and Metallica. And I was really getting into rock, classic rock like Pink Floyd and Hendrix. And when you're starting there, it's like, good God, man, you've got so much adventure ahead of you, and I've enjoyed the whole trip. And then you get to a point where then you as you get older, you get to a point where it's just, you've heard, you don't want to say everything, you've heard almost everything, and then you still find stuff that's pretty damn cool here and there, but it's not the same as those, first 5, 6, 7, full to say 10 years where, oh my God, rock and roll, blues, punk, jazz, hip hop, and you get to do all of it. So I'm all about going down those rabbit holes, but I could, you can hear that in your music. You can hear a number of rabbit holes that have been traveled back to the beginning of this.
Well, thanks. So, I always appreciate, an eclectic, set. If I see someone and they play a reggae song and then a blues song and then a jazz tune and then something complete, I just like it. It just keeps me hooked, keeps me interested. I've heard the phrase a lot, musician's band, and that's why I love like David Bromberg because he plays it all. Somebody like Doc Watson plays a bunch of different styles, I don't know. I guess I just don't have enough patience to stay focused on one thing long enough that I gotta just jump ship, and I'm like, all right, on to the next thing, next activity, and then so.
Well, and this, for the point we're at in history, it's like I don't really understand how people can stay to one genre with all the things we have in our system from all the influences we've been able to enjoy. How it's possible to stay in one or even two genres, it's just like there's so much stuff. And if you love good music, how can it not all influence you? Obviously, I love the blues is going to come through in my music more than others, but I never want to be known as even though I'm okay with it, I guess. But I don't like when people I don't like when people say I'm a blues musician just because it's like, well, yeah, I love the blues. I do play the blues, but I'm doing a lot of other weird stuff, and it's like. I'm with you 100%. And then you mentioned Marley, of course. Marley's Marley. I adore Marley. Are you a Tosh fan too, by any chance?
Yeah, I mean, and Toots and the Maytals, huge Toots fan too.
Huge Toots, love Toots. One of my most love.
Yeah, I saw him twice, and he's just like a preacher on stage, and like it was so amazing. It was life changing and inspiring, and
yes. I agree.
Yeah. And yeah, I was crushed. I was heartbroken when he passed away last year. And so many great artists passed away last year. It was so sad. But yeah, when I was in high school and I was doing the pop punk and ska punk thing, I was listening to Operation Ivy and Rancid and stuff like that. And then the Clash, and then I learned about all this other cool reggae music from listening to the Clash, like Junior Marvin and like Big Youth and like all kinds of cool, reggae and early like kind of like ska and rock steady kind of stuff. And I was really into that for a while, and that was a pretty big influence on my sound, and we don't really do. We have like one song that we do. That is the last tune on our last record, and we play that. We don't really play it live too much, but yeah, I do love that music, and yeah, Toots and the Maytals, man, like Peter Tosh too, and
it's so cool. And that's one thing about the Clash. I was in the Clash in high school too, and they're so fucking cool because they're playing punk, but they're playing reggae too. But no, to go back to Tosh and Toots, I mean. I probably love Marley as much as those two guys, but I think just because Marley already gets the shine he gets, I've always been probably a little bit more vocal about my obsession with Peter Tosh and Toots, those three, it doesn't get bigger for me in terms of, and I have tons of heroes, tons of influences, but right. Tosh and Toots, probably because they're pretty overlooked in some, in mainstream, maybe a little bit. Although you find more and more people that like right now, like you're saying, the effect. It's like, well, actually, a lot of people do love those guys, but I just adore those two. Their voices are some of the most precious things and beautiful things in my artistic, whatever you want to call it, love pool. I just adore them. Yeah, I discovered Toots when it was one of those like magic moments where I heard him playing in another room, and I asked the people I was with, I was like, who is that? he's like, "Toots in the Maytals," what he said. If he plays, he's like, "It's Toots in the Maytals, man." Went and bought a CD, partied that night, woke up the next morning, smoked a J, and listened to it, and it completely changed my life. Completely changed it.
That was the thing, you know, in high school. Like my friend once said to me, he's like, "Yeah, man, if things are ever bumming me out, I just smoke a joint and listen to Bob Marley." And I was just like, you know what? You're fucking onto something there, buddy.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty simple.
it really does help. It really is potent medicine, you know.
It is.
So
So cool, buddy. I guess my kind of rounding things out question for you is, well, I actually have one more question before I ask you what you have planned coming up. But what you touched on earlier, how you've had lineup changes. I guess my question would be, somebody, it really speaks to how good a musician you are when you play such deep rooted music that has all these influences in it, and you're picking up all these other musicians to make it with you. And I've every musician I've seen play with you is fantastic. Have you found, is there some pocket in Buffalo that's just filled with these great musicians, or are people kind of coming in and out of the city? Are you meeting them in other places, or what?
well, well, and you know, at first we just got together with some guys and we did it, and then, you know, after a while it'd be like, oh, I met this guy and he does this cool thing, and then we do this, and I don't know, yeah, Buffalo is an extremely inspiring place because there are so many incredible musicians here of all genres and types, and you know, and there's a lot of us here, and it's the second largest city in New York, which is, you know, not saying very much compared to the largest city. We already covered that, but
Yeah.
but you know, yes, in Western New York State, Buffalo specifically, there is a history of music, you know, just like, you know, the Erie Canal, and like, you know, the merchants and the you know, the Great Lakes sailors, and like, you know, there's a history of jazz, and you know, we have a club here called the CMC, which has been around for a long time, and it's like one of the only African American owned jazz clubs in the entire, I don't know, wherever, but it's a really incredible place. And you know, there's a long history of incredible music being made in Buffalo. There's a lot of great universities and colleges and just like venues, and there's multiple venues in Buffalo that have music every day of the week, every day, sometimes 3 shows a day. And you know, there's a lot of cities where that doesn't happen, you know.
Yeah,
and
totally.
And there's a lot of venues to support them. Even, you know, east of us, Rochester, New York, there's an incredible scene there too. And you know, there was better jobs there. There used to be Xerox and Kodak used to have homes there, and so I think that, you know, the wealthier folks could afford better schools and like better music. I don't know. And then now there's the Eastman School in Rochester. So there's like so many musicians per capita in Rochester as well. And then in the Finger Lakes, you know, there's just there's a great music scene as well. And there's just tons of wineries and breweries and venues and bars and all kinds of things, festivals to play in New York State, you know, in just Western New York State, you know, and Central New York, and not even talking about, you know, the city, or, you know, upstate, or, you know, the Adirondacks or the Catskills or whatever, or the Capital Region, you know. And it's a big state filled with tons of musicians, and yes, there are lots of amazing people to play with here, and there's a lot of gigs, and usually there's a lot of gigs, and people love music, and people want to go out and party. And yeah, sometimes they yell at the TV and watch football, and just want to drink
Do that
beer and
everywhere.
ignore you. But yes, exactly. And I just think that there's a lot more competition in somewhere like New York or Austin or New Orleans or Nashville, LA, whatever. There's just so much more competition, and it's pretty heavily saturated, and
Yeah, it's very heavily saturated.
There's a lot of places we can play, and I can drive within 3 hours I could be playing in Toronto, or I could be in Syracuse, or I could be almost to Cleveland, and so there's a lot of options. And
sounds like you're better keep it down, man. It sounds like you're unveiling one of the best kept secrets there for musicians.
That's what they say, keep Buffalo a secret. But it's like they painted that on a wall with giant letters. It doesn't make any sense.
I think a lot of people can't do the cold, obviously. I mean, I'm from Milwaukee and Chicago, so I did the cold for 26 years, and I don't need to do it anymore. I'm good in the South, but no, everything you're saying makes perfect sense. All those cities, you wouldn't think it, but there would be a lot of musicians, whether it's from New York City or Toronto or anywhere on the East Coast, man. It's all pretty condensed there, so it's exciting.
We can shoot down to New York in 7 hours too. We can be in Vermont in the same, And I mean, it's not a secret. I want there to be a renaissance of music and culture in this world, and in Western New York and in Buffalo, and I want everybody. I wish everybody well, and I wish everybody all the gigs. And I don't think there's any room for that caginess at all in the world. And yeah, you should get what you deserve and what you've worked for. But man, it's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. And you gotta just share everything. And yeah, I mean, I try to be an ambassador for Buffalo, New York. Wherever I go, I tell people how great it is. I'm like, yeah, the bars are open till 4 a.m. and we eat all these chicken wings, and rent's really cheap, and there's tons of bands, and it's just a wild place. You should come experience it sometime. Let us know when you're in Buffalo. We'll take care of you.
I'll be sure to come back in the summer.
In the summer, not the winter. Yeah.
No, man, that's beautiful. I'm happy for you, because Austin. Austin's been good. I came to Austin so I could get the stage time I wanted, and I've gotten it. You know what I mean? But it is oversaturated. It's way oversaturated, and obviously the cities you named are the same way. So, it's cool to hear about a spot that's got all that going for it. But to kind of wrap it up, Tyler, what do you got planned for yourself moving forward? It sounds like you already got some gigs going, so you're kind of itching those or scratching those itches. But you say you got the new album coming out. You're going to be hitting the road as soon as the vaccine has done what it's supposed to do, and kind of just get right back after it.
So as far as that goes, we don't really have anything announced at the moment, but we did announce. I'm in my 5th year of hosting a music festival called Folk Faces Fest. And so I'm really looking forward to doing that in the fall. And then, I mean, we're going to be working with a new agent, and he's going to be helping us find some gigs at places we've never been. And we're going to hit all the same, watering holes we've been at before, and that's a new step for us. We've always been a completely DIY outfit, so so asking someone to help is a new thing. I got a solo record that I'm working on. I'm going to put out some singles, and then I'm going to put out an EP, and there's going to be a little limited run of vinyl, and then I'm going to put out a full length solo CD. And Folk Faces are going into the studio at some point this year, and we're going to start plugging away on a new record. And yeah, the future is unwritten. It's just it remains to be seen what the world is going to be like when we come out of this. And so I'm very optimistic, and I know that the world's projected to be in a better place by, May, or, the summertime, and hopefully definitely by the fall. And yeah, I'm hoping for that. And let's hope that everybody really missed us, and their money is just burning a hole in their pocket, and they just can't wait to support us all the time, every day, every night. It's just going to be a party, and we're going to have too much work, and that's what I'm manifesting. And I'm concentrating on festivals for now. I'm concentrating on festivals for now, and I'd like to play a bunch of festivals this summer if possible. And yeah, once I get vaccinated, I know I'm going for a trip, and I don't know where or care, but I am going to, my feet are itchy as all hell, and I have wanderlust. I mean, I usually take a couple like solo trips, or with my girlfriend, or with the band, or whatever, a few a year, and just drive somewhere, go somewhere. And so I miss that. I miss traveling a lot. It's been nice to have the time to cook and collect, some records and instruments, and collect my thoughts, and work on some new music, and try to get fit, and and just be for a while, because I've never done that. I've always just been go. So I'm looking forward to going again. But
well, I love your attitude. I've spoken to a lot of people, and people have kind of, I'd say the overwhelming feeling of people is like bridled optimism, but you have unbridled optimism. So, and you're manifesting, as you say, what you think will be the future. And I love it, because it does make sense. Like, I just knowing what I feel like, not only am I dying to go out and play and have money, people throw money at me at stage and all that, but go see people. Like, before I was there, I would see people sometimes, but now I'm like, oh man, I'm going to go see them. I'm going to fucking go see them. I'm going to go out and see people more than I've ever gone out. I think everyone else is going to be the same way. I think it is going to be the party you're talking about. So kudos to you and your manifestation of that attitude.
And when you promote and support your friends and things that you like, you make space for yourself in the world.
100%. Well, Tyler, it was great talking to you, man. It was the music talk was as fun as it could have been, and honestly, I could have done it for a much longer time. But that's an endless road we could go down. But I know things are. You mentioned all that stuff you're going to do. That's what I found for myself. It's like, look, I'm just going to stay as busy as I can, creating. It sounds like you're in the same boat. So good luck with all that new stuff. I'm sure it'll be kick ass. And thank you, my friend. And good luck to you.
Thank you, Sam. Back at you until we cross paths again, man.
Hopefully soon, my friend. All right, Tyler. You take care, buddy.
All right. See ya.
Peace.